Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com. How's it going? This is Christopher. It is January the 21st, 2010, and you are here with us broadcasting live from the internationally famous C&E Studios, Greensboro, North Carolina. Hope you're doing well tonight. Again, you have just me, Christopher. Eric is not with us, and he is getting a lot of free passes here lately, but that's fine because, as our loyal listeners know, Eric is moving to a new home. He was in a unique situation I won't go into on the air, but you're probably wondering, why has he been moving into a new home for so long? But he's in a situation where he's living in his old home, fixing up the new home, and can't move into it until it's ready. And there's a lot more to it than that. But without going into detail, he's under a timeline to get the new home ready, so that he can get moved into it and get out of his old home, so it can go on with what's going to happen with it. So. Obviously, we cut Eric a little slack because he's got a lot of work to do. And trust me, he's done a lot of work, but he's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot going on. So you're here with just me, Christopher, and I can talk for hours. People that know me well know that. And I have no problem doing the show by myself. But as I always say, when I do it by myself, it's so much easier when Eric is here. The main reason being, I can maybe get a sip of water or get in a big yawn while Eric is talking. Or if he sees that I need some water, or if I need to have a big yawn, then he starts talking. He can kind of fill in the gaps there. When it's just me, well, like right now, you're going to sit through the yawning and the catching my breath and getting a sip of water. So that's just how it goes. I mean, it's live radio. So Greensboro, North Carolina, internationally famous C&E Studios. If you want to call us, we got a call-in number of 646-716-6928. Of course, you can go to blogtalkradio.com/incoherent ramblings, where you can see a myriad of methods to contact us. We have our Blog Talk Radio show page. We have a MySpace page, a Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter if that's your thing. You also can send us messages via any of those, as well as to incoherentramblings@live.com. You can do a click to talk if you have a internet connection and a microphone. You can chat with us during the show. We have a live chat window open, available from Blog Talk Radio. And then also you can go to iTunes, subscribe to the Incoherent Ramblings channel, and it will automatically update the shows for you each week after they're posted online. You can download them there to your iPod or your MP3 player, and listen to them while you jog, or maybe commute back and forth to work. Maybe if you aren't able to get sleep, you can listen to our show and it will lull you to sleep. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways to connect with us electronically over the internet. And we love listener feedback. Not every show, but a lot of shows actually include stories sent to us by actual listeners. And when we say that, sometimes when we're joking, we really try to make an effort where it's obvious that we're joking. However, when we say that we're reading a story from a listener, we're being legit. Listeners send us stories. A listener sent us a story this week, and I have to be honest, I accidentally deleted it. If I happen to come through it, come by it in one of the stories that I read, and I remember that it was from this particular listener, I will credit it as a listener submitted story. So if you have a story that kind of caught your eye, you thought it was funny, or it's a good news story, or just of interest to you, send it to us. Listener submitted stories have always made it. We do reserve the right to not run them if we, for whatever reason, but they've always made it on the air to this point. And also, if you have any topics you would like discussed, I work in the IT industry. I have quite a few friends that are very skilled and knowledgeable in different areas of IT. Eric, on a management level, has worked in the computer industry and is more knowledgeable than your average computer user. Eric is a realtor by trade and is knowledgeable of the housing market in the Greensboro and Piedmont Triad area of North Carolina. But he's also got a wealth of knowledge in realty in general. He may not be familiar with where you live, but I'm sure he could provide maybe some insight if you were interested in something like that. We're both very much into movies and TV shows. So, if there's a topic you would like covered, and if it's something we're not even familiar with, we'll definitely read up on it and consider running it. While I'm thinking of it, speaking of topics that may be covered, I actually received from Blog Talk Radio, let me see here, hold 1 second, do they have a show? Or is it just a listener? I don't think they actually have a show, but their Blog Talk handle is Brit at PMP. Oh, excuse me. Received an interesting message, and her she signed it, "Thanks, Brittany." So I'm assuming that Brit stands for Brittany. A very nice little message she sent me. The caption, the title, is "Show Idea, an Unlikely Defender of Religion." And I won't read the entire message, but basically she is working with an author out of New York who is a professed atheist. And while it's confusing to most, in addition to being a professed atheist, he actually defends religion and doesn't really care about discussing or debating whether or not God exists. However, he focuses on how lives are positively impacted by people believing in a higher being. And she was sending us a message saying that it was a good show idea. I don't know if we would dedicate an entire show to it or maybe a segment of our show. However, it definitely has got my interest. I'm going to share it with Eric in our next staff meeting and see what he thinks about it. And I believe he would be interested as well. But to be honest with you, if I were going to commit an entire show to it, I would actually like to have this gentleman, Bruce Shaman. I believe is how you pronounce his name. I would actually prefer to have him on the show, actually, to join us for part or all of it, to maybe throw out some ideas, take questions from us, answer questions, and either possibly even take calls from callers. However, what we're going to do with this, I don't know. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to share it with Eric during our next staff meeting, and if he thinks it's a good idea, she's going to send us a book, a copy of this book, and I would like to see if he would actually be available for an interview. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. It's definitely an unlikely defender of religion. So just thought I would share that with our listeners, what a little something that we might be delving into. But hey, if you have show ideas, topics that you think or maybe it's a topic we've never talked about, but for whatever reason you're interested in hearing me and Eric ramble about it, hey, we love interacting with our listeners. And we really appreciate our listeners. I've said our loyal listeners know this. We have a few loyal listeners that listen live. However, the vast majority of our listening base, this time slot for them is not convenient for their schedules, and so they download it and listen to it. And we have a lot of people that download and listen to it, and we really, really, truly do appreciate. And a lot of those people that don't listen live actually send us topics for the shows and stories, which, like I said, we air it. If it's listener submitted, to this point, we have always aired it. So thank you. We appreciate it. And like I said, I apologize. Eric's not here today. He is the E and the C and E. I'm Christopher. But it's an acceptable excuse. This is not a paying gig for either one of us, and he has to do some work on his home. So you're stuck with me. Well, as our listeners know, we try to start the program off with good news. I mean, our lives, our world is impacted with bad news. The tragedy in Haiti recently. There's bad and negative news to feed off of pretty much everywhere we turn, and it's realistic. But we like to try to go out and find good news of heroism, good deeds, people making a difference. Even if it's for a cause we may not feel strongly in ourselves, we always like to see someone that says, you know what, I feel strongly about this, and I want to make a difference. Much like a story a couple weeks ago about the 7-year-old in Chicago that saw a homeless person and said, you know what, that breaks my heart. This person is homeless and doesn't have a place to live or eat, and single-handedly, started a fundraising event and sent like 2 trucks full of food and clothing and water. A 7-year-old kid doing that, 7, 8, 9 years old, things like that. So if we come across a good story or two, we like to start the show off with that, because turns out a lot of the funny or interesting stories sometimes don't dwell on things that are that uplifting. So here we go. Good news. We had a lot of good news stories 2 weeks ago, and last week we had a couple good ones. This week, slim pickings on the sources we use. But hey, I'm going to run with this one right here. It comes from Wonder Lake, Illinois. A couple in northwestern Chicago suburb of Wonder Lake found their 13-year-old house cat who went missing after saving their lives during a house fire. Josh Ornberg and Letitia Kowalowski said their cat, Baby, woke them early Monday morning as they slept on a couch in the living room. Ornberg said the house was starting to fill with smoke from a fire in the bedroom. He called 911 after he could not put out the fire with a home extinguisher. The couple, who were expecting twins in about 2 months, got out of the house safely, as did Baby and their dog, but Baby disappeared a short time later. We bought cribs, clothes, the changing table for the arrival of the twins. This weekend I was going to buy one of those Disney ceiling fans. Now there's nothing left. Ornberg set up a trap for their gray, white, and brown tabby, who he said is strictly an indoor cat. His employer saw the cat in a trap and kept Baby with them in their car until they couldn't meet with Ornberg to return her. I thought she would come back and he was happy when he found out that baby was found and doing well. So, hey, you know, it's a good story. Here's a young couple, soon to be parents in 2 months, expecting twins. Yep, it's a tragedy. Like, you know, their house was destroyed and most of their possessions, but they are safe because their cat woke them up. So that's a good news story. Here, everybody that listens to our show knows that our show, our mascot is my beautiful pit bull. Her name is Bella. She's right here beside me now. She is usually in the internationally famous CNE studios, and I said her name. Now she's looking up at me. A cute, adorable dog. You know, so vicious. You know how those pit bulls are. They're biting people daily. I love dogs, and here's a story about a dog who put his life on the line to save a young child. It's a pretty neat story I wanted to go with here. It's pretty long, so bear with me, and I may paraphrase a little bit. The 11-year-old boy didn't have time to react and barely enough time to realize that a cougar was flying toward him with dinner on its mind. Luckily for Austin Foreman, his dog, Angel, threw herself between her best friend and a lethal predator. Never was a dog more appropriately named than the 18-month-old Golden Retriever, who nearly gave her life to save Austin Sunday in Boston, a small Canadian town some 150 miles north of Vancouver. She was my best friend, but now she's even greater to me. She's more than a best friend now. He was interviewed by Matt Lauer from his home with his mother and the Constable Chad Rebel, who shot the cougar and saved Angel. We're really lucky that he was saved by an angel. That's exactly what it was. There's no other word for it, quotes Austin's father. Around 5:30 Sunday evening, Austin went out with a wheelbarrow to bring in wood to feed the family's wood-burning furnace. At that hour, at the northern latitude, it was already dark. Angel went along with Austin, and the boy found it curious that instead of playfully galloping around the yard as she normally did, the dog stayed close by his side. He would shortly learn thereafter what the reason was for her actions. Austin was a few feet from the woodshed when he saw the cougar, which he first assumed was another dog. Although cougars inhabit the surrounding forest, they usually stay away from towns. There was a light in the backyard, and when the animal got under it, Austin saw it was a cougar getting ready to pounce from less than 10 feet away. But just as the animal leapt, Angel came to the rescue. The dog knew something was up because she ran toward me at just the right time, and the cougar ended up getting her instead. I was just lucky my dog was there because it happened so fast I wouldn't have known what hit me. The cougar clamped its jaws around Angel's head. Frantic, Austin screamed for his mother and ran inside yelling, "There's a cougar eating Angel." Sherry Foreman looked out the window and saw the cougar on the patio with Angel's head in its mouth. It didn't look good for the heroic pet. Angel was whining and making noises we've never heard before. We knew the cougar was killing our dog. She called her father-in-law, Lloyd Foreman, and he told her to call 911. Boston Bar is a small town of fewer than 1,000 people, about 150 miles outside of Vancouver. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody else, and that applies to Constable Chad Rebel, who was finishing up the day's paperwork when he got the call at his office less than a block away from the Foreman home. The dispatcher told Gravel that a cougar was attacking a young boy. When the constable took down the address and family name, he immediately knew that the boy could only be Austin Foreman. He rushed to the home thinking that Austin's life was in danger. When he arrived, one of the daughters ran on the porch and said, "Hurry up, Chad, the cougar's got our dog." At that point, I was a little bit relieved that Austin was okay because I knew he's the only young boy in the house. Now we had to deal with the dog. Gravel drew a sidearm and went out the back door. He saw the cougar's tail extending from underneath the porch. Although he had a flashlight, it was dark and hard to see, and Gravel was dealing with a deadly animal in a confined space. The dog and the cougar were all kind of tangled up as one unit, but he was able to see the big cat's hindquarters and fired one shot, hoping to sever the animal's spine. When the cougar kept on attacking Angel, Gravel moved around and got in front of the cougar, which was less than 6 feet away. It was really dark out, and I was just trying to line up my shot as best I could. I could just see about 2 or 3 inches of the cougar's head sticking out from behind Angel, and luckily I was able to get a good shot. Without him, there's no way the Angel would have survived. The sounds had all stopped. It was just a matter of seconds. The timing was perfect. The shot killed the cougar and missed Angel, but the cat still had its jaws around the dog's head. Austin's cousin, Travis Compton, was also at the house, and he went to help Angel. The cougar had its mouth over the top of the dog's mouth, trying to suffocate it, blood all over the animal. And out of nowhere, the dog breathed a gasp of air, just like it comes back from being dead and spits up blood. I'm looking at her and holding her, and I just knew she was going to be all right. From being all but dead, Angel went back to romping around the backyard, her head covered in blood. The foremans took her to a veterinarian where she was treated for extensive but not life-threatening injuries. She had surgery yesterday afternoon. She was in for about an hour. Her skull was fractured and had to be pieced together. We're hopeful for a full recovery. Angel was expected to return home as early as Tuesday to our hero's welcome and a thank you present purchased especially for her by her best friend. I bought her a big, nice, juicy steak, said Austin. I mean, people don't understand, especially cat lovers, no offense to the cat lovers, they don't understand why I have the affinity I have for dogs. But this is the reason right here. A house cat would not have done that. And if it would have done that, there's nothing it could have done to have saved this young boy. However, this young, year-and-a-half-old dog literally was willing to give her life for her master. And that's just the amazing thing about dogs. They're just amazing animals, and that's how they are. They literally willingly put their life on the line to save their master. And that was, I thought, a really good story. And there's a picture of the cougar right here, I guess, post-mortem. I took a picture of him. He's a pretty good-sized cougar. And they are obviously strong, carnivorous, sharp teeth, sharp claws. No match for a young 11-year-old boy for certain. So to Austin Foreman, I'm glad he's okay. And, hey, I'm glad glad his dog is going to be okay. It's an awesome story. We have other good news stories, but unfortunately, they are videos. So if you want to go out to MSNBC and check out Heroes and Angels, you can read more about the story I just read, as well as maybe looking at a girl who reunited with a dog rescued from a well, and a man rescues a boy from a burning building. Some other good deeds and heroism there. Always like to hear about that kind of stuff. Last good story is, I think, a nice story about a young lady who was, bear with me 1 second, I'm sorry. I got a little distracted just there. I apologize. Sorry. I'm very, very sorry. Sometimes I forget to turn off some of my IM programs, and then I get bombarded during the show. I do apologize about that. This is a new site that I've looked at here. I usually go to the Wonderful News, and this is a new website. A link that I'm going to check out called Heroes and Angels. I've just recently found it. This is a feel-good story right here about the little girl and the dog in the well. Quiet little town of Olar, South Carolina, population 250. It's a feel-good story of the year. Olivia Hartzog, age 4, was reunited with her beloved pet Molly after the poor pooch was trapped overnight 33 feet down in an abandoned well on the family property. Olivia hugged her pet and playmate happily. "You're okay, you're okay, you're okay, Molly, you're okay." Basically, the fire department came out. A local fire rescued Dwight Williams, who had been certified less than a week before. He made the disconcerting descent down the well to retrieve the dog, and the dog, if he had not found it, the dog would have certainly starved to death or died by some other means. Basically, this young girl and her best friend, a dog, have been reunited. So that's another good story. Here's a hero pet of the year. Talking about another dog saving someone. A Chihuahua mix. Some people don't look too fondly on Chihuahuas. I usually don't either. But I do have a small little place in my heart for them because my late maternal grandmother had a Chihuahua Rat Terrier mix named Tiny. And I could not help but love her. First, it was Grandma's dog. And second, the dog was fond of me. And as irritating as she was, I still have a special place in my heart. At first blush, 13-pound Chi-Chi seems little different than the typical temperamental Chihuahua riding as an accessory in a celebrity tote bag. Even his owner admits everyone thinks of him as a bit of a pest, but no longer. By sounding a yippee alarm on a North Carolina beach, Chi-Chi likely saved the lives of 2 senior citizens overcome by waves and was crowned Reader's Digest Hero Pet of the Year in the process. Chi-Chi appeared humble, if a bit standoffish, in his national TV debut, appearing at Rockefeller Plaza as his owners Rick and Mary Lane told today's Matt Lauer and Ann Curry how their pint-sized prize rose to the occasion in a big way when danger loomed. It's a typical day at the beach last October. She and Rich were relaxing on the beach in chairs at Indian Beach on North Carolina's Outer Banks, and while Chi-Chi rested in his own chair, restrained, of course, since he tends to chase after other beachgoers. See, getting back to a little bit of a pest. He leaped out of his chair, still attached, dragging the beach chair, and started sending out an alarm. He was making a sound we'd never heard before. "Hey, what's the matter with the dog?" Rick said. Turns out nothing was the matter with him, but more than 100 yards down the beach, where she spotted a horrific sight, there was a huge storm surge, and there were 2 elderly ladies. One had fallen on her back, head first into the surf. The other lady, a little bitty lady, about 90 pounds, was trying to hold her head up, and she was in danger of being washed out. 100 yards, a football field away, 300 feet away from where this dog was tied to a beach chair. This dog, a small 13-pound little dog, sensed danger, tore off running, dragging the chair behind it. 300 feet later, 100 yards later, found these 2 elderly senior citizen ladies that were very likely in danger of losing their life if they were caught in the storm surge. The Lanes rushed to pull the ladies out of the riptide after determining the pair were shaken but otherwise fine, returned to their spot on the beach. To find Chi-Chi happily sleeping in dog-eat-dream world in his chairs. Seriously. There's lots of stories. This one story, the one before about saving, putting his life on the line for his young owner and the cougar. But how amazing is that? Being that far away, and knowing that he needed to come to the rescue, and coming to the rescue, and quite possibly saving their life. Hey, awesome news as far as I'm concerned. Well, you know, if you've been listening to our show for a while, you know that Eric and I like superheroes. And there are some superheroes out there. There are actual superhero leagues. We have a superhero in North Carolina. He is currently in retirement, and we're hoping to get him out of retirement. His name is Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf, if you're listening, or if anyone listening knows Steppenwolf, please encourage him to come out of retirement. It sounds like we're making fun of them, and we're not. We're just enjoying. We're just enjoying the fact that they think they're superheroes. But you know what? Some of them actually are. And here's a story where a superhero believes that, well, just let me tell you, a 14-year-old superhero may solve a real-life case. He's written a comic book about long unsolved slaying of Amber Hagerman. Jake Tinsley is certified graphic novel wonderkind. At the tender age of 14, he already has 5 published comic books and some 20 strips under his belt. But the young teen is moving from escapist entertainment and putting his ink-drawn superhero, the Night Owl, smack in the middle of real-life tragedy. In September, Jake is set to publish his 6th comic. Amber Hagerman Deserves Justice, a Night Owl comic, is rooted squarely in the reality of the 1996 murder of Amber, a 10-year-old Arlington, Texas girl who was abducted and murdered. Today, her name lives on in the nationwide Amber Alert system that tries to locate kidnapped children. So when you hear Amber Alert, this is named on her behalf. Jake told today's Natalie Morales he usually goes for more escapist fare, but found the horrific story of Amber too compelling to ignore, and more important, it may stir debate and draw new leads in the unsolved murder. Amber's case was the perfect fit for my comic book because Night Owl's entire purpose in life is to abolish evil. Although the high school freshman was just 1 year old at the time of Amber's abduction and murder, the case was close to his family's heart. His late grandfather, Jack Tinsley, was executive editor of Fort Worth Star-Telegram at the time of the Amber case, and his father, Ben, was a reporter on the paper covering the story. His dad's internal wheels began turning when he learned the Cold Case Investigative Research Institute at Boulder College in Texas was looking at the murder case anew. He saw an advertisement on Facebook, and he told me, I remember that case. I said, we might want to get the word out about that, so we've made the comic book. Goes on to say, basically, he tells a little bit of what happened with the case. According to the only eyewitness who saw the abductor, Amber was picked up by a man in a black pickup truck in an abandoned Arlington grocery store parking lot where she was riding her bicycle. 4 days after her abduction, Amber was found lying dead in a creek bed. Despite large reward offers and an extensive manhunt, her killer was never found, and a task force was abandoned a year after it was formed. Pretty grim stuff for a comic book, but Jake told Morales his intent is not to scare children with a story. It's an informational comic book. It's not just for kids. If kids want to learn, they can always pick it up. It's got some good tips on how to avoid stranger danger. Amber's mother, Donna Whitson, gave her approval for Jake to do the story, and the CCIRI enthusiastically partnered with him. They're hoping that his Night Owl comic can make a real difference. A number of people are going to pick it up and go, oh yeah, what did happen to her? We're going to start this conversation. It's not going on right now. Somebody knows something. Jake added, if we have one shred of evidence that we didn't have before, I'll consider my job done. He's an outgoing, animated boy. He made Morales, the interviewer, chuckle with his elaborate use of sound effects and describes his creative process. Although he's immature and a freshman, there's an underlying maturity to his work. He told NBC it took a long time to get in my head that people were evil and that evil people are out there. And thus the Night Owl character is heroic in his efforts to protect young children. With his glowing green eyes, ability to fly, and shoot lightning bolts out of his fingers, he has plenty of weapons at his disposal to take the scum of the earth. Take down the scum of the earth. May sound like a silly kid doing silly things, but personally, I like what the kid's up to. Putting it out there, making it fresh in people's mind that knew about it, people that never heard about it. If you're listening and you know anything about this case or any case, do the right thing and come forward. If you are guilty of something, do the right thing and turn yourself in. If you have a loved one or a family member or a friend that you know something about, as difficult as it may seem, and it goes against every grain in a parent or a child or a child's fabric, to turn in their family, but do the right thing and turn them in. That's the only way justice can be done, is for the person to be caught. Grim topic for sure, but I like where this young man is going. I like the fact that he's, through his art, through his escapism and his comic book writing, he's trying to make a difference. And I applaud that. Let's see here. Let me get a little sip of water. Here's something, a hero that I think has been wronged. Let's see what you think. Being a hero isn't what it used to be. Once, if you foiled a bank robbery, you might have gotten a medal. Today, you're more likely to get fired. Just ask Jim Nicholson, the ex-bank teller whose reward for foiling a bank heist was finding himself on the unemployment line. As if to underline how much times have changed, even Nicholson understands why he no longer has a job. Banks are insured, and everyone from security consultants to law enforcement authorities to the banks themselves agree that the most dangerous thing any civilian can do is attempt to stop a robber who may be armed and dangerous. We are supposed to comply with what the robber says. We're supposed to just hand it over, he admitted Wednesday. He'd do it again, though. Just the same, Nicholson said if he were in the same situation again, he still wouldn't just hand over the money. Instead, he'd probably go the hero route again. He can't help it, he said. It's just the way he is. It's something that's in my nature. It's how I was reared. If something goes wrong around me, I have to do what I can to make it right. Nicholson was working as a teller in a key bank branch in Seattle on Tuesday, July 28th, when a man dressed in black and wearing a knit watch cap came into the building. The teller, suspecting something was amiss, especially after the man, who was acting nervously, got out of line once before approaching Nicholson's station. The man was intent on making an unauthorized withdrawal and gave Nicholson a bag, saying, "This is a ransom. Fill the bag with money." Bank rules are universal in this. When confronted by a robber, tellers are to hand over the cash. Any other action, experts say, could provoke violence that could leave innocent customers, employees, and bystanders injured or dead. But Nicholson thought it was curious that the robber used the word ransom instead of robbery. He demanded to see the man's weapon. The robber replied, "It's a verbal ransom." At that point, Nicholson's instincts took over. He threw the bag on the floor, jumped over the counter, and took off after the would-be robber, who ran out of the bank and down the street with Nicholson in pursuit. With the help of another civilian, Nicholson caught the suspect, who has a record of convictions for theft and robbery, and held him until police arrived to take him into custody. As of Wednesday, the man had not yet been charged in connection with the robbery attempt. Why? I have no idea. Because our legal system is social commentary here. Our legal system, especially defense attorneys, for some unknown reason, think that we're supposed to help and aid the criminals, when it should be the other way around. We should help and aid the innocent people. Curry asked him whether his actions were prompted by outrage at the robbery attempt. Honestly, I wasn't angry at all. He used to chase down shoplifters when he had a job in retail. I was very calm, surprisingly. I just wanted to prevent him from doing this. If I let him go, he could go to another branch and do it again. But what about the training gone through at the bank during which he was taught just to hand over the money? It's one thing to receive training, but when it actually happens, something else just clicked. Nicholson insisted that even though something bad could have happened and the man could have, had he been armed, equally unpleasant things could have happened had he not acted. If I'd let him go, it could have ended up in a police pursuit. It could be a shootout. It could be just as dangerous to let him go. But FBI experts disagree, whatever, as did Nicholson's employers at the bank. After finishing his shift Tuesday, Nicholson worked a regular shift Wednesday. But at the end of his Thursday shift, his supervisor told him the bank officials want to talk. I hoped for a reprimand. Instead, he got a pink slip. He held no grudges and made no apologies. And when Curry asked whether he'd do the same thing if he found himself in a similar situation, without hesitation, he said, I think I would. And to be honest with you, if I lived in Seattle or any area where there was a key bank, and I'm not just, this is not hot air, this is how strongly I feel about this, I would pull out every single bit of money and relationship I had with them, and I would go elsewhere. I don't care what the rules say. I don't care what the FBI quote-unquote experts say. I don't care about any of that. The fact of the matter is, he did something he didn't even have to do. And he went after someone that was doing something they shouldn't have done. And what is his reward from his employer for his loyalty? His reward is being terminated, having his position terminated. A reprimand, yes. Possibly even a reprimand and a probation saying if this happens again, we'll have to let you go. But to fire him, it's completely unreasonable. And shame on Key Bank, shame on the executives there, and whoever ultimately was in charge of the decision to let this young man go. I don't know your name, but I personally award you this week's Incoherent Ramblings of C&E's Sheep Award. And that was enough that I wanted to give him 2 Sheep Awards because it's a pretty crappy thing to do. You fire your employee that stands up for your company. Wow. If you do business with Key Bank, I would consider doing business with someone else. Well, I'm going to take a little break, get some water, and while I do, I am going to play a clip from the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E's unofficial show sponsor.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
Hover-round. Now I'm free to see the world.
With a Hover-Round, you truly are free to see the world. Hover-Round's award-winning compact round design makes it the most maneuverable power chair in the world. And because it's portable enough to easily fit in a car trunk and powerful enough to pull a 2-ton van, Hover-Round gives you the freedom to go almost anywhere, even the Grand Canyon. Find out if a Hover-Round is right for you. Call one of our friendly mobility specialists for a free evaluation and free Hover-Round video. Hover-Round's licensed nurses will work with you to determine if you qualify for Medicare, VA, or other insurance. With Medicare and a supplement, owning a Hover-Round could cost you little or no money out of pocket. So call now. Declare your freedom to see the world in a Hover-Round.
There we go. The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E's unofficial corporate sponsor. Our friends at Hover-Round, mobility experts, and if you're interested in a mobility scooter, you might want to start with them first. Sometime it seems like irony breeds humor. Just seems that way. This is somewhat, maybe it's not exactly ironic. The correct word is not coming to me. So when I first read the story, I had to laugh. As the Weight Watchers group gathered for a routine weigh-in, the dieters got an idea of how far they still had to go. The floor underneath them collapsed. We suddenly heard a huge thud. We almost thought it was an earthquake, and everything flew up in the air. One of about 20 group members, that was a quote by one of the 20 group members. The floor collapsed in one corner of the room along with the walls. After the initial collapse on Wednesday evening, the floor started to cave in other parts of the room, and the stench of sewage crept into the clinic. The group is looking for an alternative location for future meetings. Weight Watchers consultant Therese Levin told Swedish paper. No one was injured, and the cause of the collapse is still under investigation. I'm not sure they really need to look too far for the cause. No offense. Afterward, the participants moved the scales to a hallway to have a real weigh-in. That time, the floor held. I don't know. I kind of found that amusing. Here's an odd story. A lot of our weird, dark humor stories involve criminal weirdness, and this one falls into that category. This comes to us from Michigan. A Jonesville woman was charged with biting off part of her sister's nose. You heard that right. She bit off part of her sister's nose. Bobby Smith was held in Jackson County Jail on a $5,000 bond after arraignment Tuesday on charges including mayhem and domestic violence. Police chief said the 27-year-old woman bit off a significant portion of Sandra Smith's nose during a fight Sunday. Police recovered the detached piece. Assistant prosecutor Mark Blummer told the Jackson Citizen Patriot that photographs indicated one-third of her nose was bitten off. The 28-year-old woman was to meet with a plastic surgeon at the University of Michigan Hospital. Mayhem, defined in part under a 1931 Michigan law as mutilating another person's nose, is a 10-year felony. Jail records didn't indicate if Bobby Smith had a lawyer. That's all. That's really all that's in the story. But I would have to suggest that perhaps this young lady is mentally disturbed. I don't know. I don't really think it's considered normal to bite off someone's nose, but your sister, your own flesh and blood, obviously she's unstable in the least, and also obviously I think their fight had gotten a little out of hand. Because seriously, what could anger you so much that you want to bite off your own sister's nose? And then literally, I don't mean that you couldn't get that angry, but then literally do it. You got the bank teller who's foiling a robbery attempt getting fired. Well, here's another odd firing. We love to see healthy, happy pets, is a PetSmart's motto. But apparently the policy doesn't apply to pets belonging to employees. Eric Favetta, a 31-year-old PetSmart employee, was fired for theft of services after bringing his dog to work during an overnight shift he picked up as a favor to his manager. The Secaucus, New Jersey store added an overnight shift in order to prep the store for a visit by officials from Martha Stewart's company who wanted to discuss selling products at PetSmart. Pavetta, a former military dog handler who had worked at PetSmart for 18 months, didn't want his 3-year-old Belgian Malinois, Gizmo, to be home alone all day and all night, so he put Gizmo in the store's doggy daycare facility. The store was empty, and Pavetta checked on his pet every 15 minutes. 2 weeks later, store and district managers requested a written report of his overnight shift. He complied and promptly was fired for theft of service. I was shocked. It makes me sick that because I brought my dog to work with me when the store was closed to do the company a favor, I was called a thief and terminated. He argues it was just a convenient excuse to axe him because he didn't get along with his manager, noting he opened the store and handled money without incident. PetSmart spokeswoman Jessica White defended the company's decision, saying the doggy daycare service is a huge part of their business. Access to the store's doggy daycare facility is viewed as sales items the same way items on the shelf are. To use the facilities and not pay for it, it falls under the same lines. PetSmart eventually offered Pavetta his job back and a transfer to another store. He accepted, but then he was offered a job at a company that uses animals to search for hazards, and he took it. No word on whether that business will allow Pavetta to bring Gizmo to work. What is going on with PetSmart? This story doesn't sit well. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a PetSmart customer. Bella, the show's official mascot, my beautiful pit bull, has very dry and flaky skin, and she has a special diet: no beef, no chicken, no corn, no wheat. Actually, no beef, corn, or wheat. I feed her a venison and brown rice formula that doesn't have the list of things that the vet wanted her not to eat, and I happen to buy it at PetSmart. And now, obviously, this was not my local PetSmart here in Greensboro, North Carolina. It was one in Secaucus, New Jersey. However, the corporate PetSmart agreed with the termination. And I'm going to be honest with you, this story upsets me. It's ludicrous to say that it was theft. I would defy anyone to say otherwise. That's just, it's insulting. He was doing the store a favor by working what is not a usual shift, to work overnight to prep the store for the arrival of someone who was coming in that could possibly do business with them. The store was not open. Customers weren't coming in and out. It was closed for business. There were no employees that were in there having to take care of his dog, getting paid on company time while he got this service for free. I can't even, my brain is so confused right now, I can't even seem to find words to provide commentary on this, other than it's pure stupidity. I mean, if you work at the YMCA and your child is off school, but you still have to go to work, I would guarantee you any YMCA in the country will allow you to bring your kid with you and let them hang out there with you during the day. Is that theft of services? Of course, you probably have a free membership as an employee, but still, what is going on here? It's not like he brought the dog in and told other employees, hey, I want you to look after my dog while I go off on a 3-week cruise, but let's just keep it on the down low so I don't have to pay for it. I don't know. This is infuriating to me. And I'm actually going to send an email to PetSmart and ask them to justify to me why they should retain me as a loyal customer that I have been for many, many years since they opened a store here in Greensboro. No, this is just stupidity in action. Absolute stupidity. Whoever made the decision to fire him should be fired. And shame on the corporate office for agreeing that it was the right thing to do. That's not theft of service. He was doing them a favor by staying overnight. What was he supposed to do? Leave his dog locked up in his house? And then his neighbor, calls animal control, and then he goes to jail for animal cruelty? Somebody here is stupid. There's no other word for it. Stupidity. I'm going to have to get off my high horse here before I fall off and hurt myself. Wow. Well, my personal friends know that I enjoy hot sauce. I enjoy the taste of peppers. I don't enjoy the burning sensation of my flesh falling off from eating a really hot pepper. People think I do. That's not what I like about it. I like the flavor of peppers. Here are some young men who don't appear very bright in a pepper-related story. This comes to us from Berlin. Officials in Germany say 8 teenagers were hospitalized after a test of courage in which they drank chili sauce more than 200 times hotter than typical Tabasco sauce. The Red Cross in the southern city of Augsburg says that 10 boys aged 13 and 14 drank the sauce Wednesday morning, apparently in school. The German news agency DADP quoted the Red Cross as saying the boys complained of feeling sick, and 8 were taken to the hospital. They were kept in overnight. For observation. The Red Cross says the Scoville scale, which measures the hotness of sauce, the sauce measures 535,000 compared to the 2,500 for normal Tabasco sauce. Your average jalapeno is got a Scoville rating of somewhere between 5 and 15,000. So, I mean, sometimes I eat jalapenos, just bite them up and chew them, seeds and all. So let's just say you got the hottest possible jalapeno at 15,000 Scoville units. What they did was still 35 times hotter than the hottest typical jalapeno. No wonder they went to the hospital, drinking it by itself, not eating it on food. It was probably burning their innards up, and they were probably in considerable amount of pain. Not really the brightest decisions there by these young boys, but hey, that's kind of how us young kids do it. Maybe I should shut up. I've been rambling on, and I apologize. Tonight's show's not been that good. I've been distracted a few times, and the last time, 2 shows ago, I think I actually I felt that I did a good job. Some listener feedback said that it was an awesome show, so I appreciate that. I was just focused. I was on target. Tonight I haven't been, and I apologize. But it's difficult when I'm running it by myself and don't have the time to prepare for it like I would prefer. Anyhow, thanks for hanging out with us. Eric sends his regards. He truly hopes that he will be with us next week, and hope you guys are with us next week too. Thanks.
This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.